Avery, whose show is this? And we're live. Welcome, everybody, here to the Lakers Lounge podcast. I'm Anthony Irwin, Senior Lakers Insider for Clutch Points, joined on this fine, what is it, Raj? Tuesday evening by Raj Chapalu of silverscreenandroll.com. Today on the show, we are going to be talking about the NBA draft. The only issue is neither Raj or I know anything about the NBA draft. So it should be an interesting conversation. No, we're the way that we're basically going to talk about this, and I'm going to do this again with Brian of Locked On Lakers tomorrow too, is basically like I always frame things with expectations. You know, if I ever do any kind of player evaluation, I start with, well, what did we expect from that player going in? And if I ever, if a player exceeds expectations, that's kind of how I frame the analysis there. And going into the draft, I want to know kind of, and you guys are going to help me with this too. I want to know what your guys' kind of baseline expectations are. We're going to talk about expectations. We're going to talk about hopes, pipe dreams, all of that stuff. And we're also going to talk about fears because we have seen the Lakers screw things up in the past. The Lakers just made that huge Luka trade and then rescinded the Mark Williams trade, which I think is a perfect kind of exemplification of Rob Pelinka's roller coaster that he has us on. So we'll talk about all of this stuff. There's also been a shit ton of movement around the NBA. Even just today, you have Kristaps Porzingis being salary dumped to Atlanta. You have late last night, you had Anthony Simons going to Boston for Drew Holiday, which I didn't understand. What we apparently Portland wants to keep Drew Holiday, which makes it even dumber to me. There's the bunch of stuff going on. Kyrie Irving just signed his extension, and I think it's really interesting that he took a bit of a pay cut there.
Yeah,
he gets 2 additional years, but he's going to be making less next year than he would have had he just opted in. So I think that's really interesting as we enter Apron World as well. But yeah, Raj, how you holding up?
I am good. I was funny, you texted me like, do you want to preview the draft? And I was very honest. I think that's the most important thing in this. And I said, I can't name, more than 10 players in this draft. And
I don't think the Lakers can either.
I hope they can. I was just laughing because I've seen, and I respect so much people who do the work in the draft. I've seen Anthony like 160 name boards, like just these huge long boards of prospects that people are ranking. And I was thinking you have 2 people previewing the draft who probably could we get to a first round 30 picks if we had to? I could probably get to 7 or 8 picks, and probably after that you could make up names and be like, that sounds about right. The Lakers had a 55th pick, and we'll see if they get it. They buy into it. You're right. Just so much action, crazy transactions. I don't remember I guess it's been a while since we've had a finals and go the distance. I don't remember the draft being this soon after the NBA finals, like where the parade is happening and the next day is the NBA draft. Is that usual? I don't remember that at all. I remember there was at least some break before you get into the draft. Like the Thunder won the title, their parade draft. What? That's strange.
They're gonna be Thunder employees still nursing hangovers while they make their selections during tomorrow's first round.
What do you think about the non-alcohol celebration that they have going? Jaylen Williams said that was the first time he drank, which I thought was, kind of, I don't know how old he is, but I think he's like 22.
Well, they're all pretty young. I guess apparently there are like studies done on this that Gen whatever Z? The new one is doesn't or the one goes millennials then Gen Z, right? So
yes.
Apparently Gen Z drinks a lot less than millennials do. Which kind of makes sense because millennials have been kind of put through the ringer. You
had some
think about
crazy
everything that
times.
we've kind of like. I was laughing about this with Dad the other day. I was like, yeah, I mean, I haven't even turned 40 yet. We had I was a sophomore in high school for 9/11. I was then obviously I was in high school and then early in college when we went to Afghanistan, and then I remember the Iraq debate. I remember then we had Trump won, and then we had COVID, and then we had now we have whatever what the current wars that are being
Climate. Mhm.
in the Middle East. And so yeah, that's why we drink so much, Raj. That's
Right.
had a normal moment in my adult life. But no, the Gen Z thing is really interesting. I Here's my thing though, Raj.
Mhm.
You're not going to drink, fine. What did kind of annoy me, like what did kind of annoy, like the old man
Yeah.
shaking fist at
Get off
clouds
my
to me.
get off the grass.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like that, like it was like you're barely celebrating though. Like, all right, you're not going to drink, you're not going to do that, but you're not going to like douse each other with anything. You could have. Can you have some like apple cider that or the sparkling cider that you can hit each other with? Like
Yeah.
just make it look like you won a championship. I don't know. The Oklahoma City Thunders, it's well documented on the show. They've always kind of annoyed me, but then there was a perfect capper to them like treating this NBA championship like an AAU tournament that they won, that they had like alternates for. I went and saw my little nephew play over the weekend in a he was like an alternate. The team needed some extra bodies, and he said, yeah, sure, I'll go play, and his team won the tournament.
Yeah.
And they showed about as much enthusiasm for winning that weekend tournament, as the Oklahoma City Thunder did winning a championship. That was
Yeah.
crazy to me. I don't understand what was going on
Yeah,
there.
yeah, they had the pictures of all the booze that was untouched. I thought that was interesting. Like, hey, look at us. We kept all the booze untouched. All the champagne is
Yeah.
still in the bottles. I love the
It
story
was
where I guess
Michelob, so I kind of get it. I wonder if that's part of it. If they just had like
it was
better beer,
Michelob's.
would they drink it? Like,
That's true. Yeah, they got the yeah, it's not the best beer, but I guess my favorite story was Alex Caruso teaching all the young guys, I guess, how to pop champagne.
yeah,
Because I guess the Lakers celebrated better in a world where you could not
they
go
definitely did.
outside
Yeah,
than the Oklahoma City did. But congrats to the Thunder. Yeah, it's funny watching stars talk after they won, Anthony, because it just always feels more of a whew, we got out like more of like
yeah,
a
like a
relief than an
relief.
actual celebration
Yeah,
from Shea and all those guys. But yeah, I just thought the alcohol story was very funny and dominated. I saw you retweeting some stuff how the parade maybe had like 50 people in it, and there were, and so I think a lot of people showed up later. I think that's what happened at the
totally,
parade.
totally. There were like 33 people in Oklahoma City. Like
All
what
right.
are we?
That building is packed.
Their entire no, the reason the building is packed is because that's their whole city. That makes their way into the building. Everybody
Right.
goes. Anyway. Quick reminder on that great note, please hit subscribe here to the show, especially if you're watching in Oklahoma City. If you guys hit subscribe,
asleep
hit
already.
like, hit all of those good buttons. If you guys are listening to this in the morning via pod, please hit subscribe wherever it is that you get your podcast, preferably on Odyssey, because I am a company man. If you guys are listening or watching right now on Twitter, you can find the show and subscribe to it at youtube.com/at at Lakers Lounge. Sorry, Alex. I'm sorry that you are watching it in OKC. There are more people watching the show right now than attended the parade.
Man.
How about that? Let's kick off this conversation though, Raj, and we'll lay the baseline expectations. What are we hoping to see the Lakers accomplish? And I was thinking about this as I was making my way into my office and setting up the show today, because I was kind of marveling at Boston. They basically had a goal in mind this offseason. It was like, get out from the second apron.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what we have to do. Some of these the bites of the pie that we have to eat are going to be kind of bitter. But at the end of the day, we do need to get under the second apron. We know that we aren't going to be competing for a championship this year. Jason Tatum is going to miss probably a big chunk of the season, if not all of it. So let's just take this opportunity to kind of reset as an organization and move some older money on our books and get under that second apron. They do it in 2 days, Raj. They moved. Drew Holiday was going to make what, like 30 mil this year.
33.
Kristaps Porzingis was going to make like 40 something, I believe. They moved 70 million in 2 days. We had to sit here and watch Cam Reddish all season because the Lakers wouldn't waive him to make an opening for Gary Trent Jr. Because apparently waiving him and taking some of that dead money was too much for the Lakers to fathom compared to the Boston Celtics, who basically just turned. Now, look, they're worse. They're a lot worse right now than they were 2 days ago. Anthony Simons is a worse basketball player than Drew Holiday. The guy that they got from Atlanta,
Georges Niang.
yeah, Georges Niang is a lot worse than Kristaps Porzingis. That team is a lot worse right now than it was a couple of days ago. But again, they didn't care about that. They knew what they needed to accomplish, and they went out and accomplished it. And for me, I want to see the Lakers have a goal in mind and accomplish that goal tomorrow. Because last year at the draft, they had a goal in mind. They were going to draft a center. That was the whole point of their approach to the draft last year. It was between Misi and De Silva, and they wanted one of those two guys. And then Connect fell to them, and they didn't have a backup plan to get a center apparently on draft night. And that kind of, I think, really sums up how rudderless they can be at times. And I think tomorrow, it's like, all right, we know the Lakers still need a center. And if you walk out of one of the next 2 draft nights without a center, I'm going to be shaking my head a little bit. That's my baseline expectation, guys. The bar is on the floor.
Yeah, I'd love to, and we'll never know this. And I think Tatum's injury, obviously not a blessing. You never want to see a player go down, but I think from a Boston Celtics front office standpoint, the reporting was no matter what happens, we have to blow this team up. Just the contracts aren't viable. Shout out CJ McCollum being sent to Washington. By the way, just here's your gift for this CBA. Go make it work on the Wizards. But no, I would love to know what Boston did if Tatum doesn't get hurt, because I think these moves are looked in a very different prism in terms of, wait, you have 2 stars on, in their prime, just won a title to the previous season, and you are cutting salary for nothing. But now they can look at it at, look, Tatum's out. We're going to take a bet on Anthony Simons. And I love that trade for Boston. I don't understand it for Portland very much. There's some, glass half full takes on it, but I just, Trae Young for the same player 2 seasons later.
It's glass half full if you keep adding water.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the logic dies at some point. Yeah.
It's like the glass is currently, there's like there's a sliver of water there, and people are filling it to get it to half full. It is after that I did not understand what Portland was doing there, because now look, what I said apparently is I think Drew Holiday is better right now than Anthony Simons for like, if you're trying to win a championship, I would rather have Drew Holiday because he's a much better defender than Simons is. But Simons is like 7 years younger, and he's this crazy deep threat in a Boston situation where they want to get up as many threes as they possibly can. He's going to be playing next to Derek White, who I think alleviates some of those defensive concerns. I see the fit. I see what you're talking about there from Portland's standpoint. If you're going to keep Drew Holiday, and you basically told everybody last year that the only way that you're getting Anthony Simons is for multiple first-round picks, and then you send out draft picks to get off of his contract, only months later, it just, I don't understand it. And the word coming out of Portland, my dude Hyken was reporting this in the moment, how they were planning to keep Holiday. Now, what I always say is that, like, no team is going to be like, yeah, he's out of here. Apparently Holiday doesn't want to be there. So we'll see how long that reporting holds. But yeah, I don't understand it from Portland's standpoint. Completely agree with you.
Yeah, I usually don't trade out as the team that's acquiring, the expiring contract. You don't usually, and you gave up to me the better talented player, and I think Simons is 7 years younger than Drew Holiday is. I think they look at it as Holiday's kind of there. Fred VanVleet is kind of the way you could sell it.
Mhm.
They feel like they're on the precipice of that next jump, and maybe who knows, they could be correct. Holiday might play there. You know what I mean? So.
Totally. Yeah.
They had a good second half of the season, right? Like they
You're
were
right.
a
You're right.
legit defensive team. DeAndre Ayton's going into a contract year, right? We've all the sales that we've made in terms of how Ayton could play. That's like if you squint enough, you could kind of get some vision on
If
it.
you squint and look through beer goggles,
Yeah.
maybe. Like the jump that you're talking about is I had Lonnie Walker on the show back when I was at Silver Screen, and we talked about how they have those vert jump boxes, and
Mm-hmm.
everybody who's ever used those things have jumped just a little too short and scuffed up their calves. That's the jump that the Portland Trailblazers are going to
Yeah,
make this year. In this impossible West, they're going to make
right.
they're going to make a Houston Rockets jump. The actual Houston Rockets just got Kevin Durant.
That's that is very fair. That is it's a tough comparison to but no, just connecting that back, with the Lakers. I think everyone in the world knows they need a center, and the connections are starting to kind of drop in terms of what centers they'll be after. Atlanta just made the trade today as well, so that kind of, I think, they went and got Porzingis, another strange one to go grab a center that barely plays to me and has the most strangest injuries. But we'll see how that pairing goes with Trae Young. But I think that opens up the Clint Capella possibility at the taxpayer mid level. But yeah, I've always said, Anthony, I want as many bites at the center apple as we can get. Right now, I think the only bite in the draft we have is the 55th pick. So we'll see if they buy some picks, and that's what I'm hoping for. This scouting department get a chance at some of these players. Obviously, Dalton had an up and down season last year. That was their first round pick in a while. But just to get some second rounders, Brooklyn has 5 picks in this draft. Maybe if you can steal one from them, just that's what I'm hoping for. We enter in to a little bit of a higher point in the draft, because I think at the 55th pick, it's tough to get a rotation guy. Although the Lakers have done well in the undrafted pool as well. But that's my expectation, is they jump into the second round somehow. I guess you can speak to more in terms of how active they'll be in the trade, in terms of the trade market during the draft. I think that's a very volatile place where teams like to make moves, but that's what I'm hoping for. Let's draft a big that's athletic, that fits. The bar is, like you said, on the floor, but I also think you could look at the bar as, like, Dallas had this same formula 2 years ago, went and drafted Derek Lively. Derek Lively's don't grow on trees per se, but I think that skill set you can kind of research and find, hopefully, in this draft. And hopefully they get more chances at just the end of the draft where they found Bronny, last year, and that same pick this year. I'd hope they get another chance than the 55th pick. That's a tough place to find a rotation center, let alone a big, for a team that's so desperate for one.
You used the word hope there. What would you say is what are you wake up tomorrow, or you wake up, sorry, on Thursday,
Mm-hmm.
and this, blank just happened, and you wake up on Thursday and you're like, damn, I can't believe that actually happened. What would that have to be?
Yeah, I think I would love if they were able to go get a name big, in terms of like a young big that has some kind of name to him. Walker Kessler is the guy that I wrote about, and to me he fits the cleanest in terms of a defensive presence, young enough that can build, and has enough, I think just has the athletic profile that I'm looking for, lob threat, defensive smarts, spatial awareness, that, or even a Nick Claxton, that type of player. I think it was kind of reported today that the Lakers are less interested in Claxton, but something like that where you keep Austin and maybe Dalton, and a pick is moved for a center. Maybe there's a center that falls that the Lakers are interested in, but that's, to me, you wake up on Thursday and you find yourself with a center going into free agency. Anthony, I think it would be tough to walk into free agency without a center. Like, I just, that your team building becomes so questionable to me. What piece do you go after once before that such crucial pieces is figured out. I'm not really sure. You know, Wiggins is another name that's being plotted out, but I just don't know how you go get him before understanding who your 5-man is. So that's what I would hope. Wake up on Thursday, Lakers have a center that, okay, this is my starter. Like I can predict that I can go into the season with this guy as my starting center. Then I can build out, branch out from there. Before that, I just think everything else falls on the back burner. Like the big man has to be decided, whether that's through the draft and you move up to get a center that me and Anthony don't know who he is, but like, you know, you trade up to go get that guy, or a center you trade for. Hopefully that's done before free agency opens, you know, in a week.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. That it's tough. That's kind of getting more towards expectation than hope. Like again, the so I saw all of the reporting. Rob has been active, is what I'll say, in his conversations with people covering the league, and this makes me a little nervous because the Lakers are souring on Nick Claxton, and the Jazz are just not making Walker Kessler available to the Lakers, and this and that and the other about big targets, and that would indicate to me that the Lakers are just not happy with the prices that they have to pay. And I don't think Boston is like happy about trading away Drew Holiday. I don't think Boston is happy about turning Kristaps Porzingis into George Niang. Like I don't think that's something that they are like over the moon about. Their owners, or especially the new ones, are probably really excited about their tax bill being, $200 million lighter, or whatever the final number is going to be. But like, I don't think the Celtics basketball ops people are particularly thrilled right now looking at the roster as it currently stands compared to where it was a couple of days ago. And my point for saying that is, all too often I feel like the Lakers, and Rob specifically on this front, sets his price and that's it. This is what I'm willing to give up for X player. And if he doesn't win the deal, he's not interested. And the one exception to that was Mark Williams, right? And that was when he was trying to kind of prove to Luka that, look, Harrison and I remain a little cynical about that entire process. There are plenty of people around the league who are a little cynical about how the Lakers handled all of that. And the thing that the Lakers are going to have to do here is take some medicine, even if it doesn't taste the best. Like I have kids. I have 2 little kids, and if they're coughing, cough syrup tastes like shit. Like cough syrup is disgusting, especially to little kids. But it's like, look, it's going to be 3 seconds of a bad taste in your mouth, and you're going to follow it up with a little bit of Gatorade. You'll be fine, and that's where, if the Lakers don't trade for a center tomorrow, we're going to get that whole spiel of like, you can't buy a house that isn't for sale. No. You didn't want to pay the price. You didn't want to pay the increased price on the house that is for sale because of the situation you put yourself into by neglecting the center position for the last few years.
Right. And look, I'm not trying to pay any bail. I don't have that much money to do that on here, but I think there is a point, and I've said this before. I think Rob likes to work at the deadline. I don't think he has that opportunity this time. I don't. Luka has his extension in August, and you just can't go up there with a blank slate. I do think there is something where, if the Lakers are desperate for a center, and I know they're desperate for a center, I think just most things in life, you don't want to be negotiating from a place of desperation either. And so that's one of my concerns here is, I'm sure the Lakers are going to Utah and asking for Walker Kessler. And I think a lot of this also gets decided during the draft. That's why these things happen during the draft, because of positional complications, right? If Utah ends up drafting the Duke center, I think his name is Mulak. I hope I didn't butcher that. But
Maliwak.
Maliwak. They end up drafting him at the 5. Maybe that makes Kessler a little bit more available, and you can go down the line with other teams in that scenario where you can go and okay, now they have him. Now they're more open to kind of moving their center at that position. But I think the whole world knows the Lakers need a big man. That was clear. That was clear 3 months ago. It's even more clear now. And we'll see what they do tomorrow. But that's what I'm like hoping, and combining that with the expectations. I don't know how much I expect a trade tomorrow. I don't remember if the Lakers make too many draft day trades in that kind of manner. I do think they get into the second round in some way. I think those picks can be purchased. We also have a higher bank behind us, so we'll see if that makes any impact tomorrow. But I'm with you. Hopefully they get that done. I think this needs to be done before free agency, Anthony. I can't have the team walk into free agency without their big man, or a long time with Clint Capella as your main center option. I think he's the best backup you can find, and I would happily welcome him as a backup. I think your starting center needs to be decided before free agency, and that's what every phone call should be surrounded on. Doesn't mean you can't take calls on other players. Doesn't mean Rui and others can't be shot for other helpful pieces on the wing, but the center's got to be figured out, or else it's gonna be tough to build out a championship level team if you don't have that.
The other part of this too, as far as like hopes here, is that I have heard the Lakers were hoping to hear about LeBron's contract situation as soon as tomorrow, right before the draft. They would like, at the very least, they would like to see if he's going to opt out, do so before the draft. But to your point, Raj, if you're LeBron and you're being asked to take upwards, like I just did a Yossi show, Harrison and I just did Yossi show the other day, and he's hoping, and the way that he kind of built out the framework of the Lakers offseason there was with LeBron taking a $10 million a year pay cut. If you're Rob and you're asking LeBron to take a $10 million-ish pay cut so that the Lakers could have access to their full mid-level exception or whatever it is, then you should probably go to him with an actual center on your roster. You should go to him and be like, here, look, here's the center that I was able to go out and get. If you take this much less, we could also get Nickeil Alexander-Walker, say, and we could go into next season with a rotation of you, Luka, this center, Austin, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Dorian, Vando, maybe Dalton. I don't know, depending on if he was included in the trade or not. Like, here's what we're building towards. And like to the point that you're talking about here with Luka, but like it's crazy to me how quickly people have moved off LeBron mattering in the organization, right? Where it's like, yes, Luka is the biggest presence in the organization, but it's still LeBron, and he was still an all NBA player this year. We should care a little bit about what he's hoping for the Lakers to accomplish this year. He does still give you a pretty good chance at winning a championship. So if you could get him for just a little bit less or whatever it would be, and if adding center X to your roster helps in those efforts, that's another reason why that needs to be something that you take care of tomorrow, even if you aren't exactly thrilled about the price.
Yeah, I don't even entertain the LeBron taking $10 million less in a season. I'm with you. That's not only do I not think it's going to happen, I don't even think Rob Pelinka, like just business to business, I don't think Rob Pelinka can go up to LeBron and say, I need you to take $10 million less. Kyrie Irving just had his extension. You spoke about it, at the top of the show. The reason I think he can, and the Mavericks had a little bit of leverage in that situation, is because he just tore his Achilles, right? So he's hurt until the middle of next year. This contract negotiation is way different if Kyrie Irving finishes that season healthy. He's coming up saying, I want every single penny. Oh, absolutely. He had all the leverage in the world until he got hurt. So that's where I just can't see it. And number two, I saw there was something interesting that happened during the finals that people didn't really I think glossed over. Oklahoma City, I believe, made a trade during the draft. And then the Indiana Pacers, Anthony, during the draft, this is before Tyrese Halliburton got hurt. They flipped with the Pelicans to get their pick back for next season, right? This is during the draft. My point with this is these conversations, during the finals. This conversation with LeBron isn't a June 24th conversation. This hopefully happened at beginning of May, end of April. Like, this is not now you come to LeBron with look what we look. Like this should be an ongoing, free flowing conversation, back and forth, text messages, this. Do I get the sense that's happening? There's my own opinion. I don't. I don't think that's what's happening. LeBron has what, until the 27th to decide, I believe. If he's opting in the 29th. Okay, so he has some time, and I believe he's going to take every single day. And maybe they know, who knows, maybe inside the organization they have some idea. Hopefully they do. LeBron's been in your building for 7 years, whatever it is. Hopefully you have some understanding of what his plans are. But yeah, that's where I'm at with the LeBron taking less. I'm just going to go and assume the Lakers have the taxpayer mid-level to work with. Now, I mean, just the devil's advocate, if he were to, it would open up $14 million worth of money for a free agent. That's not nothing. That is extremely,
or multiple free agents.
Yeah, it's a very attractive thing to go to the summer with. I just can't see it happening. And so hopefully there's a contingency plan in place already, understanding that that's not happening. I think the best chance for that was last season, and nothing came of it because we couldn't close with Klay Thompson. LA kid Klay Thompson, by the way, whose dad somehow is at every game as well. Not still mad about that, but yeah, I can't see LeBron taking no pay cut, and so hopefully, and there's a plan in place to work, around the expectation that LeBron's going to take pretty close to his max, maybe a little bit less. I've saw some things where you can work around if he takes a bit less than the full max or whatever it is, but yeah, well, it's gonna be interesting to see what he does, and if the Lakers get any answers to that before tomorrow.
All right, let's enter the dark point of this conversation.
Oh no.
What are you nervous about? Like, what's an outcome that you wake up Thursday and you wake up and you're like, I can't believe that just happened? What would it take to get you there?
What's crazy is, like,
or again, even if we don't even have to get that far, like, what would you prefer the Lakers avoid?
So we already got some, like, in terms of the dark news, right? And again, I think when you're so desperate at a position that's not very deep around the league, like, again, I implore people to go do this. Go look at, like, the center lists around the league, and it gets it gets dark very quickly in terms of like, just like, oh well, I'm already here. I've gone down 8 salaries and I'm already, like, at this player. And I think, if
Jesus, I arrived at Nikola Vucevic really fast.
Right. I'm telling you, you get to my guy Christian Koloko faster than you think on the center list, but available centers, right? Obviously, if you open up the pool to all centers, like Chet Holmgren's not available, I promise you. So, like, it cuts out a lot of players, but Wemby's not available for instance. But in any case, I just, one of my fears is, I mean, the names are pretty short, right? Walker Kessler could be moved for another team comes in and was like, look, I really like that guy. Here's this for him, or Nick Claxton gets moved to another team. Like, these teams don't have to work with the Lakers. These aren't one-on-one conversations. These are 1 with 29 conversations. Like, these are league-wide stuff that's going on. These teams don't have to just trade with us. We don't have any, we don't have any case to keep these centers or be the only ones they're trading with. So that's my concern. Those 2 guys are gone, and then it's like, where do you go from there? Do you knock on Indiana's door and, like, hey, remember us 2 years ago? Like, so that's like,
Miles Turner sure sucked in the finals, didn't he? What do you think? You think they show up with flowers for Tyrese Halliburton? Hey, sorry, guys. Man. Boy, Turner really blew it, didn't he? Woo! What do you think?
Right. Yeah. That's my, like, darkest fear. And then, we are sold on Clint Capella or the draft guy that they pick. But that's the darkest one. It's like those 2 guys are immediately traded to other teams. before even free agency starts, maybe during the draft. I think that would be pretty dark. There's just not a lot after those two where you're like, that's a starting level center. I think Capella can fill in maybe till the deadline. Like, I think the Lakers can manage wins around that. But again, you're kicking this can to another transaction cycle, which I know you love. But yeah, that's my fear.
If the Lakers kick the can, I'm hoping that can is full and it hurts their foot. That's like I hope that they kick that
Like a
can, it's got some
concrete
rocks
can.
in it, and it's or it's fucking bolted down and it
Yeah.
hurts. That's like Jovan has made this point on his pod, and I think he's come on this show and he's made the point as well. I think he's been kind of beating the drum the loudest that like essentially the Lakers need to reset their cycle, and they have essentially they are like off calendar with the rest of the league where they kind of sit there, they sit through this the summer, and then they're really active in at the deadline.
Yeah.
And the smarter teams throughout sports do the opposite, where you do the bulk of your work in the off season and then you tweak during the regular season. And the Lakers, I think, again, and these things, Raj, aren't easy. Oftentimes, because you paint yourself into a corner in the way that the Lakers did, it costs a little bit more, and it's a little bit more painful to acknowledge. Yep, yeah, we've been doing this kind of dumb for the last few years, and it does become a little bit more difficult that way. But I'm completely with you that the Lakers need to. I mean, shit, another version of what we've been talking about here. And I guess the situation I would most like to avoid is going into yet another season with everybody knowing what they need to do still, because they've spent so many transaction windows dating back to the Russell Westbrook trade with the rest of the league knowing exactly what they needed to do. The league knew they needed to trade Russell Westbrook. They eventually knew that they needed to trade D'Angelo Russell. Now they know that they need to trade for a center. And it's like when the entire league, when Sports Center is talking about the things that you very clearly need to do, it makes it really difficult to get anything done. And that's how they have spent basically every transaction cycle for the last like half a decade.
Yeah. And some of this also like letting great be the enemy of good. Some of that is part of this too, where I think the Mark Williams deal kind of showed the exact picture that they wanted, right? Center, long, and on an amazing contract, and that's tough to find, but that feels kind of like the bar of, okay, if we're gonna give everything, we need all three of those boxes checked. And the fourth one was like be healthy, but that one that one was just not checked off enough in that deal. But I think that's kind of the cars that they're looking for. And again, if you do that, the names that you go after are very limited. It kind of really shrinks your pool. That's part of the the other names are Anthony, like Jared Allen, but I think those guys just make too much money, and you can have a conversation whether those guys are worth that or not. Eventually, players of that ilk that are that good are going to earn that money anyway. That's part of it as well. But yeah, it's tough to kind of know where they'll go with this. I'm in the hopeful stage and of that there's a center that they find that they deem worthy of kind of trading what they need to go grab. But again, when you're in a desperate situation, and to your point, you're right, they go and wait for the deadline because I think that's the place where it's most activity, at least on their end, because obviously that closes the entire window for the season. You're acting with a little less desperation, I guess, if you can show that your team has won enough to where they can survive. And I guess you can go into negotiation deals a little differently at the deadline. But yeah, most good teams do the brunt of their work in the offseason. So hopefully that's where they do it this year. I think Luka coming just changes all the calculations of what goes on and how the moves will go. Maybe I'm wrong with that, but that's just what it feels like it will be this summer. But Lakers have few assets to play with, especially if you remove, which I think they will, remove Austin from kind of the deals that you make this summer. The assets are pretty finite. I mean, Dalton, a swap, and a first, I think, is what you're playing with. Obviously, you have Rui in the. I don't know. Like Brad Stevens just showed. Like I hope someone was watching and going, expiring contracts are that value. Like they're that valuable. I guess you can do some stuff this summer. But
Well, I know that there are a lot of teams that are going to be looking to get off of future money, and that's something that the Lakers are going to have to kind of that again. That's something that the Lakers haven't been all that interested in doing in recent years. They haven't been interested in taking on long-term money in trades, and the longest term money that they have unfortunately given out was to Jared Vanderbilt, and that one is kind of painful. So I can kind of understand why they're a little iffy about taking on long term money. But yeah, I guess before we dive into some of the super comments and the live comments here, a quick reminder to the 2,000 of you tuned in right now. Please hit that subscribe button and like button and all of those good things. But I think what Raj, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what we're both kind of getting at here is like there is no perfect solution here.
No.
There is like you like parts of DeAndre Ayton's game, but you also hate his motor. You like what Nick Claxton can do as a lob threat, and you like that he can move his feet and he's switchable and all of those things, but he weighs less than I do. You like Brook Lopez as a floor spacing big who's kind of difficult to move. Unfortunately, he looks like he has a few forks stuck in his shoulders. Like there is no perfect solution here. And I think what oftentimes the Lakers kind of fall victim to is paralysis by analysis because they have so many cooks in the kitchen while also not having enough qualified cooks in the kitchen. It's like, do you watch any cooking shows? Do you ever watch cooking shows?
I used to watch Hell's Kitchen like a long
perfect,
time ago.
cool. Hell's Kitchen. You know how like the final challenge, they get like their competitors and they're there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Just imagine that. But instead of like the competitors that they were going up against, throughout Hell's Kitchen's run, they like go and they get like 3 people who just started at McDonald's and that's their like backup. That's essentially the Lakers front office. It's like one decent cook and then it's a whole bunch of people who you would really prefer don't even fix you a PB&J. But anyway, the what I'm trying to get at here is and Pete has talked about this on LFR. We've talked about this on the show here as well, is the Lakers front office is very kind of factioned off. And on any given day, you don't really know whose voice is going to sound the loudest in that room. And what that kind of leads to is like on one day, Linda will speak up and be like, yeah, I'm not really sure about this. And they'll leave the conversation there. And another day you'll walk in and Kurt will be like, yeah, but like, I really kind of like Ayton, and that's where the conversation kind of stops. And it's not until they arrive at an overwhelming majority, if not consensus, that a move is finally made, right? There's probably consensus on the Luka trade.
Yeah.
That was something that I think everybody probably agreed on. But forever, the Miles Turner Buddy Hield trade wasn't a perfect deal. It was probably one first rounder more than the Lakers would have liked to spend. I would have rather them make that trade than get like half a season of Malik Beasley, Vando's terrible contract, and a season or so, a season and some change of D'Angelo Russell. Miles Turner is a better player than all of those guys. So, like by staring down good for the sake of perfect, the Lakers continue to kind of put off these decisions that they need to make yesterday. And it all it does is add more and more and more leverage to the teams that they're negotiating against.
Yeah. I think part of this too, I just want to make it clear that you can have a line in terms of how you want to build the team, right? It's not like you have to accept any deal. And sometimes no move is better than some move. We saw that with the Russ deal as well, in terms of how that activity really didn't lead to anything prosperous. I believe we're still kind of, even years later, still feeling some of the effects of that in terms of the trigger that was pulled, the stars that were, kind of blamed or however that worked. Hopefully, with the new ownership, you see a little bit more cohesion in terms of what the decisions are going. But I think there's nothing wrong having multiple, opinions in the room. I think just someone has to have the decision-making opinion, and that's the person that has to be very aware and understand basketball, understand positions, understand team building, have some type of ethos in terms of how they want to build the team. And I think now you're going to have to see it. I think they've really, you've spoken about this, but the clutch ties have completely, if not are gone, or I don't think clutch has any influence anymore in terms of what's going on with the team. It was very easily, we were listing before our mid-level exception signings, Anthony. They were all clutch players pretty much. Vando, right? Like just all of these guys. And now that is, now maybe Luka has a say, who knows? Maybe that just transfers right over to Luka having some say in that. But I think they get a chance to build the team out. And they don't have a fresh slate, but I mean, a lot of expiring players, a lot of players with some value at least. I think Rui has some type of value. Whatever they think of him, there's some trade value there. But yeah, they have a chance to build a team out with a player that I think has very clear strengths and very clear things that he needs around him in terms of the big man, the defense, the players, the defensive type of players that he needs around him. And so I think Rob and that group are going to get a chance. I don't know how many years or how many transaction cycles they get with this new ownership to kind of prove what they can do. But I think they're going to get this summer. And so you and Harrison have spoke how maybe Rob just does his job well now because it's forced upon him. That's one of my favorite conspiracies. But we're gonna see, I think, very soon. We have a week until free agency. The draft is tomorrow. We're gonna get an answer very soon how quickly they're able to kind of build out this team and go get the players that are necessary. And again, the bar is pretty low. Go get a big man that can start, and I think from there you can really build your team out. If you want to build the rest of that through a slow process, but I think the big man has to be figured out either tomorrow or at least before free agency. We'll see if that happens. But I'm excited for the draft. I think this is their first transaction window with Luka Doncic, and he doesn't extend till after this window. I think that's extremely fascinating. We'll see what he does.
All right, let's dive on into some of the starred comments here, which means we get to play. Especially today, man. It's so annoying that they have the good, like Brad Stevens was like a good coach, and then he immediately became a really good executive too. Fuck him.
He's so good at his damn job. It's annoying.
So annoying.
They're gonna throw Anthony. They're gonna throw Jaylen Brown on somebody, like and get good value. Like people are gonna pay them to take Jaylen Brown's contract. And he's gonna sell that to them, and they're gonna like eat it up. He's like, Jaylen Brown, Finals MVP. I need that extra first.
Yeah,
he's gonna push it over.
There was a lot of Jaylen Brown noise early in the offseason, and they're definitely listening to offers, right? That's out there plenty and now at this point. But
yeah.
It's, you know, I think you have to have a pretty particular situation to trade for Jaylen Brown. I looked at it for the Lakers, and it's almost mathematically impossible. Now, it's a lot more possible now because of Boston's, updated cap sheet. So, maybe with it now being a little bit more possible, maybe that intrigues the Lakers a little bit more. But yeah, I don't know if they're able to trade Jaylen this summer, but it's a tough contract. It's the most expensive contract, right, ever before Jokic signed his. It's just bananas. Absolutely insane. All right. The first super comment that we get here comes from Justin Tindle, who writes, get the best rebounding shot blocking big available. I believe that would be who? Like
that's Kessler to me. Like he's the best offensive rebounder available. I think he averages over 4 offensive rebounds a game. He's I think like at least 3+ blocks a game, and so he's the best defensive big on the market. In quotes, again, I have no idea how actually available he is. That stuff is up in the wind from what I just read consistently, but I think he's far and away the best defensive big that you could possibly attain.
It's just we've heard that name for too long, and we know that those types of names just never happen for the Lakers, right? The types of trades that the Lakers eventually make are the ones that you haven't been hearing about for years. Again, I go back to the Miles Turner, Buddy Hield example, and then they eventually traded for D'Angelo Russell and Vando and Beasley. You could go, you could even the Russell Westbrook trade, right? Wasn't the one that we thought, going into that offseason, we thought it was going to be Buddy Hield again, ironically. When he was with Sacramento, Luka came completely out of nowhere as well. So, and like, it's funny. There was this thing that happened today where Stein reported that the Lakers are not currently actively pursuing
John Collins.
John Collins, right? After I had spoke last week about how that was somebody who the Lakers have always liked. They've liked that guy for a while. And the way that people kind of treated it was like, oh, Stein said this, Anthony's wrong. But like, it's not just me who would be air quotes wrong in this case, because you would have Tony Jones from The Athletic, who has been saying the Lakers have been in on Collins for a little while. Andy Larson, a local beat reporter there in Utah, also said the Lakers have been in touch with Utah about Collins in the past, in the recent past. And that's all I was saying at the time, was that like the Lakers had conversations with Utah about a potential swap. The name that I heard associated with those talks was Rui. And the way that like people want to dunk on reporters, especially new people, as people edge their way into, look, I want people to know I don't get shit for reporting. The show grows a little bit, but I'm not making zillions and zillions of dollars off of whatever little inside information I get. All I'm doing is offering up information I have to make this show more informed and my writing more informed. And anyway, so like when I say that, and when I talk about like these deals that the Lakers might eventually make, the reason that happens is because there is one person in the Lakers front office right now. And there's like a handful of other people who, if something leaks when the Lakers are getting ready to do something, people will know really, really quickly who leaked what and to whom. And there's also like, I'll go back to the JJ Redick situation where I reported whenever it was, a couple of days before it was finally broken officially, I guess, by Shams and Woj. But I reported that JJ Redick was going to be the next coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. And the reason I did that was because I had heard he was at the facility already. and so like when that stuff hits, right, when I hear that and I report that, and it's only seen as reality, and when two other people, or now just one person, acknowledges said reality, given that there's an actual information economy at play in these things, that's where the brain fuck really pops up. And so when I say, yeah, I've heard that the Lakers are in on so and so, I've heard that the Lakers are in on so and so, I've heard that the Lakers are in, I'm trying to paint you guys a picture of what they're trying to accomplish. Does that mean that I'm telling you the Lakers are about to trade for John Collins? No, I would report it as such if that's what I was actually hearing. But I'm trying to let you guys know, the audience know, what information I have to this point. And sometimes it's right, sometimes it's updated, sometimes it's a little old, whatever it is. Sometimes it's stale, sometimes it tastes great, sometimes it's a little too spicy. I don't know, but like that's the world that we're all trying to exist in like as the front office exists the way that it does. So does this mean the Lakers are going to trade for Walker Kessler? Maybe. I don't know. I kind of doubt it. Does this mean the Lakers are going to trade for DeAndre Ayton? I don't know. I kind of doubt it, because Rob and Cronin can't arrive at a deal when they negotiate against each other. But at the end of the day, what I've been trying to let you guys know with the names that I've released out there that I've heard is this is the type of player that the Lakers are after. They want a lob threat. They want a big. They want somebody who's difficult to move. And they would prefer if that player who was difficult to move could also space the floor. In comes Brooke Lopez, So anyway, that's a long way to say maybe they do one thing, maybe they do another one. But yeah, in terms of like the best rebounding, shot blocking big, I think Justin asks a smart question because I think those are the Lakers' top priorities too.
Yeah, that should be their top priorities. I think getting the names of players that they are kind of interested in paints you a really nice picture of. These are the archetypes, these are the positions that they're going after. Obviously, John Collins is someone you've mentioned. I think Capella has been kind of linked to them. And again, I reiterated this point as well. There's not a huge bunch of names to go after either, right? And so if you're not picking from the draft, then going through these tradable players are available. And the kind of thing that Rob is looking for in terms of a cheap, affordable big, you get to these type of players very quickly, and those type of players cost a lot, which it's this vicious cycle, Anthony, of these cost too much, so you do nothing, and then you do nothing, and then they cost too much, and we are in the stage of I think it costs too much, so hopefully that ends here.
Next one, Ryan Lucas writes, seems way too quiet right now for LA. Brad makes it seems like Rob's in a different profession at times. It's either a left field move or nothing in LA. Here's what I'll say. Brad is a lot more popular among fellow executives than Rob is. Brad wasn't a former agent that some of these executives negotiated against. We know the way Rob negotiates, which he doesn't. And that can rub executives the wrong way if they're longer standing.
Can I push back on that real quick? Just 2 seconds. What? Wasn't Danny Ainge hated forever? And he still got deals. Teams still traded with Boston. He still got Isaiah Thomas for Kyrie Irving. And Danny Ainge was hated, a shrewd GM throughout his tenure. Like, I hear the Rob's hated throughout the league stuff, but there's been GMs throughout the history of the league. Sam Presti is known as a guy that you don't trade with, and somehow he's gotten more trades done in the last 5 days. And so I think this hated GM stuff is tough for me to like. That's been true in the history. It's only 30 teams in the league. You have to trade with people. So that's the part that. Do you get me on that? Like
you're right. You're right to push back on the narrative.
Like Brad Stevens, I don't think is
it
loved.
becomes a crutch.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, you're right. Like whether you're likable or you're not, you still have to, make the commodity work for yourself. You know, and in the Lakers case, it's like, or maybe the other way to take this, Raj, is that like if Rob is somehow less liked than Danny Ainge, that might be saying something. But like
I doubt
it's but yeah, I think I think at the end of the day, the thing that kind of gets in the way most often with the Lakers trying to do anything is the hard line negotiation tactic where it's like, this is my price. And sometimes when you say this is my price, that person is willing to play hardball and you're able to make that trade. But I think more often than not, if you have that hard line negotiation stance or tactic, it makes it more difficult to get stuff done. And I think that's a much bigger factor than Rob being annoying or whatever to amongst his peers.
Yeah, I'm not saying it doesn't matter at all. I think just in life in general, every business has a human relation component, right? People want to work with people they're friends with, they have some type of connection with. I'm not disagreeing there. I don't think Joe Cronin traded with Brad Stevens twice for Drew Holiday because he likes Brad Stevens. I think he just sees that as that's a trade that was best for his franchise, and I think that's how most GMs do it. And the Lakers have been pretty consistent. They trade with the Utah Jazz and the Washington Wizards pretty much, and so that like they don't open up farther than that. Obviously the Dallas Mavericks now, but just in the past those are kind of the ones that they consistently have done deals with. But yeah, just the hated part is interesting. I'm not disagreeing that Rob is not liked throughout the league. I think that's been something that a lot of GMs have had, and success kind of breeds that in a way, right? I'm sure just as you have more success, then a couple like more teams are a little bit more hesitant to kind of to trade with you, to help you, whatever it is. But yeah, I Brad Stevens is just really damn good at his job, which to your point, sucks because he was an amazing coach, and so they've upgraded. I don't know how much better their current coach is, but yeah, Brad Stevens is just really good, and I think Rob has a chance. I think this summer to kind of show what he can do with the opportunity.
There are some people in the chat saying it, thinking that not Rob, LeBron just opted in. I'm not seeing that. So I think people fell for a fake Shams account. Doesn't mean that it definitely didn't happen. I'm just not seeing it. I haven't heard anything about it. And I have maintained that I believe LeBron is going to opt out and sign a 1-1. But regardless, D Smith, I think, was the first person to ask, did Bron just opt in? I am not seeing it anywhere, so I don't believe he did. Tom asks, KP to Hawks. Hopefully that means LA could get Nance. I have thought that Nance has made a lot of sense for the Lakers. He has kind of a checkered injury history, but a few of those injuries were kind of freak accidents. He can still get up above the rim. He has improved his 3-point shooting over the years. I would really, really like it, especially if the Lakers trade for Kessler, right? Where you have that big bruising center, and then you also have kind of more of a slashing 4-5 coming off of the bench. Pete thought that the Lakers could maybe get him at the minimum, given some of the numbers that we're seeing for some of the guys either opting out in re-signing. That might be the case. That might be actually a possibility, getting Nance for the minimum. I would be thrilled. I thought if the Lakers were going to get Nance, it would be for the taxpayer mid-level. But yeah, seeing as the Hawks just traded for Kristaps Porzingis, I saw some people hoping that Okongwu would be available. I don't see that. Porzingis isn't healthy regularly enough for the Hawks to just turn around and trade a promising young center like that. It does mean that Capella's time is probably over in Atlanta, so he's probably going to be available, and maybe Nance leaves as well. But look, if the Lakers are able to sign Nance at the minimum, there's a good chance that Atlanta would just rather keep him at the minimum too. So
yeah,
that'd be great. It would be great, but there are some obstacles to that situation.
Yeah, Nance, one of the not the core baby Lakers, but definitely part of that group. He's now 32, played 24 games last year, had some injury concerns. So again, if you can get him at the minimum, like you said, great. I think he's worth a little bit more than that. And I think they did trade for him. He was part of that Cleveland Hawks trade, I believe. So we'll see if they keep him. But yeah, Capella feels like it's like they need to get Capella at the taxpayer level. Like they need to. His numbers, by the way, I wrote about him today for Silver Screen, and he shot 39% in the paint, on shots that weren't layups and dunks, and that's like the main option that we need to go after. Because he does one thing, he does it, it's just very straightforward, just layups and dunks. That's kind of all you want him taking, but that's extremely useful for a team that again had no size. I always thought he was a 7-footer. Capella's 6'10". He just plays bigger, and he's also just bigger. He's 240 pounds. He's no longer I still have the vision of him as the like twitchy, athletic dude in Houston. And that is so far removed from what he is now.
Yeah.
Where he's like this big, kind of laboring up the floor dude. But again, size is size. Can't teach it. And just something that the Lakers need. So I'd be shocked if they get Nance. Okongwu, I doubt is close to being available for what the Lakers can offer. But yeah, they kind of need to get Capella, because if not, it gets dark.
Gio Rivers has been asking throughout the show, is it possible to get Jared Allen? I don't like, if you look at the rest of the Eastern Conference, sorry, I didn't mean to do that, but Gio Rivers asking about Jared Allen. If you look at the rest of the Eastern Conference, if you're Cleveland, would you do anything to really shake it up, given the opportunity that's in front of you? You could very easily get to the NBA Finals going through this Eastern Conference, with Boston very clearly tearing it down, and not having Tatum next year. Indiana isn't going to have Halliburton. Maybe the Knicks will be a little bit better with a coach who actually uses subs throughout the regular season. But yeah, if you're Cleveland and they were really bleeping good, and Darius Garland suffering a toe injury that he needed surgery on winds up really affecting the way that he was able to play. Do you want to gamble on him maybe being healthy this time around and getting to the NBA Finals if you're Cleveland, or do you want to make wholesale changes? But I just think that too big combo of Allen and Mobley
Yeah.
is just so, it's such an advantage and it's such a part of their core identity that I find it difficult to believe that they would break that up given how wide open the East is.
I doubt they do as well. Mobley took the defensive jump last year. I feel like he takes the offensive jump next season. They won 64 games. And yeah, you're right. They just have no one in front of them. Like the 3 cars ahead of them just straight crashed into the side, and they have a full just window to get right to the finals. Something interesting, this is not for this show, but something I've been thinking about. Like if I'm not saying this will happen, but if LeBron and Cleveland decide for a reunion and they both come together for that this summer, I'd be so fascinated at what the Lakers ask in return within that. Just
Allen for starters.
Okay, that gets you to 30 of the 50 I think you would need to get to. So LeBron and Hunter, maybe you're not getting Garland in that deal. So I find that interesting, but yeah,
Yeah,
I don't think it happens.
I would probably say Allen, Hunter. It depends on what happens with Okoro's free agency. That was another guy that Pete would kind of like to see at the minimum when we talked about this. But yeah, look, the Lakers need picks. They need to open up first rounders to be able to more realistically factor into some of these trade scenarios where, like, the problem that they had a couple of years ago is that it was like Kendrick Nunn and a minimum and a first rounder. And what could you give us for that? And then it was like, you know what I mean? It's like, now it's like expiring contracts and Dalton and maybe Rui, probably not Rui, and a first in 2032 when we're going to be really good. Like it's just the Lakers need to have a more practical menu that they can offer some of these teams. But anyway, that I think is going to do it here. I'm going to let you get to your tacos, Raj,
Yes.
and let everybody enjoy the rest of their evenings. I do have a piece for Clutch Points that I will narrate for the lowdown tonight. Tomorrow, the plan is I will be going live with another one of these kind of draft primers with Brian of Locked On Lakers. And then after the draft, I believe I will be doing a show with Brian on the Locked On Lakers feed, and then I'll probably hop on here to do like a quick Q&A after the draft. Then Thursday, Harrison and I will get together to recap day 1 of the draft and maybe preview or maybe react to day 2 of the draft. And then at some point in there, we will record everything that we need to record for the Great Western Forum, which will air hopefully Friday. This 2-day draft thing really kind of threw everybody for a loop. So that will probably air on Friday as well. So we have a loaded slate for everybody. Make sure you guys are hitting that subscribe button, hitting that like button, hitting all the good buttons, tuning into Raj's content over there at Silver Screen and Roll, and then also enjoying the rest of your day, making somebody else's. And we will talk to you. Might be in a few minutes.
Bye, everyone.